a few times, just look up. Thousand times. We'll start with that little ostinato, and then the low voices will keep singing it, and then the higher voices will start singing the melody, and we'll sing this together in unison, and then eventually in a round in two parts, and I'll just show you how that goes. Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, 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 come, come, whoever you are, wonder, worship, lovers of leaving, ours is no carol of despair. Come, yet again, come, 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 whoever you are, wonder, worship, lovers of leaving, ours is no carol of despair. Come, yet again, come, 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 whoever you are, wonder, worship, whoever you are, ours is no carol, lovers of leaving, ours is no carol of despair. Come, yet whoever you are, wonder, worship, whoever you are, ours is no carol, lovers of leaving, ours is no carol of despair. Come, yet again, come, come, yet again,
Yay. Hello. There we go. I'm on. Okay. Good morning, and welcome to First Parish in Concord. My name is Paul Langston Daly, and I'm the Minister for Social Action here, and I welcome you all this morning. We are a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregation, and love lies at the center of our faith. We covenant to transform and grow spiritually and ethically as we adapt to a changing world. With humility and reverence, we acknowledge our place in the great web of life, and in this congregation, we affirm that Black lives matter as we embrace our differences and commonalities with love, respect, and curiosity. We're glad you're here this morning. If you're visiting us online, welcome. If you can give a wave to the folks in the back on the camera. Hi, everybody. We're glad you're here. If you're visiting us online, please let us know in the chat. If you're visiting in person, we invite you to stop at the welcome table at coffee hour, which is in the parish hall. Just sort of follow the crowd after the service. They'll take you down to coffee hour. So we're glad you're here this morning. A couple of quick announcements. Following our service today, we have the Worship Sharing Circle, a time to take a deeper dive into what the worship meant for you, which meets in the Brooks Room and online following the service. The Brooks Room is at the bottom of these stairs, kind of that way. Someone can help you if you're unclear. Coffee hours in the parish hall. If you need anything, assisted listening devices, play packets for kids, directions to the restroom, please see one of our greeters or ushers, and they'll be happy to help you. A quick shout out to all who made the concert with Anna Huckabee Tull and friends last night. Such a wonderful event. Yay, we had a good time. It was nice to be back together again in a space, listening to music and just having a good time. Today is the first Sunday of February break for many of our families, and we do not have childcare or religious education this Sunday. RE resumes next week. Children are always welcome in our services, and if your child would like more wiggle room, toys, Legos, art supplies, books, puzzles, etc., they're available downstairs in the parlor, which is just off the parish hall. Again, if you're unclear where that is, one of our ushers can help you. And the service is streamed to the parlor for those of you who might need to go down that way. And finally, I'd like to welcome our guest this morning, Reverend Chloe Bride, who is joining us. Reverend Chloe is the interim minister at the Pacific Unitarian Church in Ranchos Palos Verdes, California. She's a lifelong UU and grew up in the UU Fellowship of the Peninsula in Newport News, Virginia. She graduated from Harvard Divinity School in 2018 with an MDiv. Reverend Chloe is an accredited interim minister in training and is currently serving her second interim ministry. She currently lives in Long Beach, California with her spouse Div and their rat terrier Dobby. And so we welcome Chloe this morning. And with that, I invite you to stand in body and spirit and join in our welcoming hymn, number 18, What Wondrous Love.
Good morning. That's great. You guys are nice and loud. I love it. My name is the Reverend Chloe Bride, and I'm visiting you from Pacific Unitarian Universalist Church in Rancho Palos Verdes, California, and I bring my greetings from them as well. They would be so happy to know that they get to say hi all the way across the country here. So greetings from all the way out in the Los Angeles area. Our opening words this morning come from Jacob Trapp. To worship is to stand in awe under a heaven of stars, before a flower, a leaf in sunlight, or a grain of sand. To worship is to be silent, receptive, before a tree astir with the wind, or the passing shadow of a cloud. To worship is to work with dedication and skill. It is to pause from work and listen to a strain of music. To worship is to sing with the singing beauty of the earth. It is to listen through a storm to the still small voice within. Worship is loneliness seeking communion. It is a thirsty land crying out for rain. Worship is the kindred fire within our hearts. It moves through deeds of kindness and through acts of love. Worship is the mystery within us, reaching out to the mystery beyond. It is an inarticulate silence yearning to speak. It is the window of the moment, open to the sky of the eternal. Come, let us worship together in community. If you all would join me in our unison chalice lighting. O flame of our faith, open our hearts and fill our bodies and souls with persistent strength. Enliven our spirits and engage us deeply in this life of ours, this sacred, essential moment now.
It's nice to come down from the pulpit for a second, isn't it? Right? So I have a story for you this morning, and it's about a little brown monkey named Max. And so we're going to call this here Max. And this story was compiled and written by the Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto. And so I'm happy to share it with you all today. So this is our little monkey Max, and I'm going to tell you all a secret. This is actually a dog toy. And I'm fully planning on, when I go home, I'm planning on giving this to my dog. So he's going to be very happy with it. It will probably be shred to bits within a couple weeks. So this is Max. And Max lived all by himself on a tiny, deserted island near the sea. He was very lonely because there was nobody to play with. One day, a fish came swimming by and saw Max the monkey sitting alone on his island. Little blue fish said to Max, "Follow me, Max monkey. If you go to the bigger island, there are plenty of monkeys to play with. I'm sure you'll be welcome there." Max jumped up and down, and he jumped up and down, and he jumped into the water, and splish, splash. "Oh, little fish, thank you for inviting me, but I don't like being wet," he said, "and I'm not very good at swimming in the big waves of the ocean." Max monkey went back to his island again and sat alone. Max monkey was lonely. A pelican named Petey flew over to Max monkey. Petey said, "Hello, little monkey. You should go to the bigger island. I'm sure you'd be welcome there. There are more monkeys there for you to play with and talk to. How about I teach you to fly?" Max monkey tried to learn to fly. He flapped and he flapped and he flapped his arms. And if you look at this monkey, I can't imagine him flying at all. He was flying too hard, flapping so hard, and he just couldn't do it. So he sat back down on his beach, and Max monkey was lonely. Then Max monkey had an idea. He would chop down all the trees on the tiny island and build a raft. Tim Tam the turtle overheard this plan. He said, "But Max monkey, if you chop down all the trees, what will the turtle family eat? Why don't I just give you a ride on my back over to the bigger island? I'm sure you'll be welcome there." Max climbed on Tim Tam's back, and they slid into the water, and suddenly they began to sink. Tim Tam kicked and pushed back to the shore. "I'm sorry, Max monkey. You're too heavy for me to carry you to the bigger island. Good luck getting there. I'm sure you'll be welcome." Max monkey sat down on the beach again, and he sighed. If only he could get to the bigger island. Max monkey was lonely. Samson Tim Tam's grandpa, the grandpa turtle, said, "Well, now, Max, I can give you a ride. My shell is big and round, and my legs are very strong. Let's go to Bigger Island. I think you will be welcome there." Max hopped on, and Samsam gave him a ride to Bigger Island. When the monkeys saw Max arriving, they gave him a cheerful welcome. "Hello, Max. Nice to meet you. We're so glad you're here." "Max, it's so good you're here. You can sleep in my tree if you want." "Hi, Max. Let me show you where we keep the bananas." "Max, do you want to play bananagrams with us? You're invited." "Hey, Max, it's great to meet you. Thank you for coming to Bigger Island." Max Monkey was lonely no longer. Reverend Soda wrote this reflection of what it feels like when someone comes to church for the first time and finds people who understand them. Perhaps people who accept their beliefs who want to be their friends. The story might be imagined in a different way. Maybe think, what might have happened if the monkeys from the Big Island had gone to visit Max instead? What about if Max made friends with all the other kinds of animals? Turtles, birds, fish. It seems like he was friends with them too, I think. However you might interpret this, I think we can all be happy that Max Monkey found his friends and was no longer lonely.
Each month we share our plate with different groups in our community, and our February Share the Plate recipient is the Robbins House, Concord's African American History Museum. Robbins House has led the way for Concordians and visitors to learn and understand Concord's broader history, educating our town and greater community on the rich history many of us did not know. Stop by and learn more about the history and hear the story of the Robbins and Garrison families. And today we invite you to help us to continue to support this valuable community resource and educational opportunity by giving generously to our plate this morning. We thank you for your generous gifts.
There we go. I can't forget the mic, can I? Our reading this morning comes from Marina Keegan. She wrote this essay on the eve of her graduation from Yale. Sadly, she died shortly after. This is an excerpt from her essay, The Opposite of Loneliness. We don't have a word for the opposite of loneliness. But if we did, I could say that's what I want in life. What I'm grateful and thankful to have found at Yale, and what I'm scared of losing when we wake up tomorrow after commencement and leave this place. It's not quite love, it's not quite community. It's just this feeling that there are people, an abundance of people who are in this together, who are on your team, When the check is paid and you stay at the table, when it's 4 a.m. and no one goes to bed, that night with the guitar, that night we can't remember, that night we did and we went and we saw and we laughed and we felt the hats. Yale is full of tiny circles we pull around ourselves. A cappella groups, sports teams, houses, societies, clubs. These tiny groups that make us feel loved and safe and a part of something even on our loneliest nights. When we stumble home to our computers, partnerless, tired, awake. We won't have those next year. We won't live on the same block as all of our friends. We won't have a bunch of group texts. This scares me. More than finding the right job or city or spouse, I'm scared of losing this web we're in. This elusive, indefinable opposite of loneliness. This feeling I feel right now. But let's get one thing straight. The best years of our lives are not behind us. They're part of us, and they are set for repetition as we grow up and move to New York and away from New York, and wish we did or didn't live in New York. I plan on having parties when I'm 30, she says. I plan on having fun when I'm old. She finishes by saying, we don't have a word for the opposite of loneliness. But if we did, I'd say that's how I feel at Yale. How I feel right now, here, with all of you, in love, impressed, humbled, scared. And we don't have to lose that. We're in this together. Whenever I talk to UUs, to Unitarian Universalists, I ask them, what keeps you coming back to church? What keeps you coming back to church? And while I've heard various answers, and as a minister, I'm often heartened to hear answers like spirituality or good sermons. I like that. But really, the answer I hear the most is community. Over and over again, I ask this question, and over again, I get the same answer. Community, or perhaps some variation on community, the people, I've heard a lot too, the people. That's what keeps me coming back to church. Last year, the U.S. Surgeon General's office released a startling report. It named loneliness and isolation as a health epidemic in the United States, citing research with facts like 50% of Americans report experiencing loneliness. And this was even before the COVID-19 pandemic. This was an issue even before the pandemic. The pandemic just made it worse, perhaps even making the gaps more obvious to us. The Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, is particularly concerned about how this affects health outcomes. He tells us that loneliness and isolation can affect life expectancy as bad as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And the health effects are worse than physical inactivity. Spending time with your family and friends or community might be better at keeping you alive than going for that run, though he'd probably encourage us to do both, really. Loneliness is more than just something that affects health outcomes. It can be felt on a social, emotional, or even existential level. It can range from just wanting to be around people, to yearning for close emotional connection, to needing purpose in life. Some of the deepest loneliness I've ever felt was when I was literally stranded on an island. Okay, maybe not truly stranded, but mostly stuck on an island. I lived on Catalina Island off the coast of Los Angeles for 3 months with AmeriCorps. I was the supervisor, and I lived and worked with 10 other people in an extremely remote, isolated environment. We didn't have heat, and we spent most of our waking hours either working or curled up in our sleeping bags. And phone service was sketchy at best. We went into town once a week, and we'd get some groceries, perhaps a coffee, and then it would be back to the campsite. Now, one might think this would lead to close bonds and deep sharing, but our group never really managed to coalesce due to strong personalities, mental health struggles, and the sheer isolation of it all. We were just too on top of each other. I was talking to someone who's currently serving in AmeriCorps recently, and he said something offhand that struck me. He said, "It can be profoundly lonely." He had suddenly given definition to my experience in a way that I had never quite connected with. And it's painful, that loneliness, emotionally painful, and sometimes even physically painful. We might even get stuck in it, feeling like we may never make a connection or that we're unworthy of love and community. I remember how hopeless I was when I was stuck on that island. I want to ensure that we're hearing this, that you hear what I'm saying, just how painful loneliness can be. Even if it's a health problem, one the Surgeon General really wants to solve, it's also a devastatingly hard experience and a painful place to get stuck in. Ella Wheeler Wilcox, in her poem Solitude, says, "Laugh and the world laughs with you. Weep and you weep alone. For the sad old earth must borrow its mirth, but has trouble enough of its own. Sing and the hills will answer. Sigh and it is lost on the wind." How often does loneliness feel like that? Alone with sorrow and pain. As a minister, I've also heard this experience from my congregants. It's a major issue for both young people and for our elders. This feeling of isolation or lack of social connection, or of going whole days without seeing or talking to another human being. It's hard and painful, and it can be amplified if we're feeling any grief or sorrow on top of that. I know that, beloveds, I know. Also know that finding a way out, finding relief, can be really hard work. It can often take what feels like a Herculean effort to find connection, and it isn't always guaranteed to work. I asked one of my church elders where I'm currently serving. She's 89 years old, and I asked her recently about loneliness. She told me how it's a constant struggle for her. She talks about how hard it is just to do her daily basic tasks as she struggles with her breathing and with COPD, and how the only other thing she's trying to do other than keep herself healthy and get out of the house every morning is to find more friends and social activities, because that's what she really misses. Over the course of our conversation, I couldn't help but admire how determined she seemed to be on this. She shows up at church activities consistently and continues to look for opportunities for connection. Even in the course of this conversation, she was asking me to help her find a card group, a place to play cards, because that's one of the things she misses right now, is playing cards. And she keeps trying, she keeps showing up and trying. But I know it's hard, right? One of the programs I've found inspiring as I've been sort of thinking about this topic of loneliness is right here in the Boston area. It's called Friendship Works, and it pairs older adults with younger and middle-aged adults to form friendships. They hope to help reduce feelings of isolation for seniors and to give them something to look forward to in their day. And you heard about my dog a little bit, and I'm especially a fan of their Pet Pals program, which pairs elderly folks with someone with a pet, and the pet, not the person, comes to visit for a couple hours every week or every 2 weeks. It's a sort of rent a pet or borrow a pet program, knowing that many people would benefit from spending time with furry friends, probably are used to having furry friends around, but may not want to care for one 24/7. Loneliness, though, is not always solved by an occasional visitor or a phone call, but can relate to a deeper sense of belonging in a community or space. Excuse me. The psychologist Lisa Kentgen says that the loneliness epidemic could also be called a crisis of belonging. That loneliness isn't just about being alone, something we all need to actually do regularly, take some alone time, but instead it's about being both belonging in social groups and belonging to each other. It's feeling like we're an important part of something greater than ourselves, that our existence matters for a group or even for another individual, that we belong. Kentgen tells the story of Melissa. Melissa was incarcerated for 3 years. She got lucky and was able to participate in a program that provides therapeutic and emotional support during the first 18 months of her sentence. Through the program, she got involved in the Inside Out Choir, which brings volunteers from outside the prison in every week for choir practice. Melissa recalls that the noteworthy thing about these volunteers was that you could tell by their body language and how they looked at and talked to you that they genuinely cared. She belonged to a community of singers every week while going through the most difficult 3 years of her life. Kent Jen says, excuse me, the first phone call Melissa made when she was free was to Harmony, the parent organization of the Inside Out Choir. After being released with no money or street clothes, 8 days later, Melissa attended choir practice. Melissa remembers her fear when she arrived at choir practice as a free woman. I got there super early and immediately felt loved, she says. David, the choir director, and Shelby, the office manager, took me into the office instead of making me go to the choir space by myself, and we began building connections just then. And then when it was time to go to choir practice, Shelby locked arms with mine and said, "Come on, Melissa." And they walked into the choir space, and Melissa was enveloped in tears and hugs and love. And they weren't just any kinds of hugs, but the kind she wasn't allowed to have in prison. A 30-second healing hug, where you can feel someone else's heart beating next to yours. She had found belonging and community in prison and got to keep it even when she left. I can't help but be reminded or think of the choirs I've participated in over the years, especially the church choirs. The one at the Sacramento, California UU church that took a transient AmeriCorps volunteer in for a couple of months. Or the Burlington, Vermont UU church choir that adopted a just out of college young adult. I've turned to church choirs multiple times when I've been lost in life and found community singing with them. There's something so beautiful about a church choir that just says, "We don't care what you sound like. Come in, we'll embrace you, we'll teach you how to sing." Another thing I know, or perhaps believe someplace deep inside of me, is that church is one possible answer to the loneliness epidemic. It may be an antidote to loneliness. We are a place where people come to be around others, a place for praying together, singing together, laughing together, crying together, or even being silent together. The church I currently serve as an interim in California has a group that meets for lunch every Thursday. And it used to be called the Thursday Senior Pizza Lunch, but after months and months of pizza ordering, I think folks moved on to other foods. It started with the pandemic outside, and they still meet faithfully to this day. On a past Thursday, it was a rainy afternoon. We'd had some of those atmospheric rivers that had come through California. And this is not weather that Californians drive in, that they venture out in at all. Sort of the entire city stops when Los Angeles gets rain, so just to set the scene for you all. And it was a Thursday, and it was raining. And 6 of us sat down together for Thursday pizza lunch with our random assortments of foods for a little bit over an hour and had lunch together. The group has its occasional people and its regulars, And the topics vary from the weather to folks' health to stories of lives. Someone recently said during a group gathering, "This is the thing I look forward to the most every week. Just gathering for lunch together, feeling a sense of belonging. This is the thing I look forward to the most every week." For me, the lunch, it evokes a sense of warmth and comfort and acceptance. I do feel a sense of belonging, and I can imagine that's why this group might be the highlight of this person's week. This is the thing I look forward to the most every week. Kent Jen, the psychologist from earlier, says that communities of belonging have 6 qualities: an explicit commitment to care for each other, acceptance, valuing people for who they are, diversity, valuing diverse voices and experiences, a skillful way to resolve conflict, celebrations and rituals, and finally, hospitality. Doesn't that sound like church? Or at the very least, what church aspires to be? It almost felt like reading a church mission statement to me. A community that accepts each other, embraces diversity, works through conflicts, celebrates accomplishments and changes in life through ritual, and welcomes the stranger. I especially like that she names rituals as a part of belonging. Celebrating with our community's births and deaths, important commitments, or even just recognizing the beginning and end of the year. Our ceremonies like water communion and flower communion, gathering us in and celebrating the environment, the beginning of summer, or even Mother's Day. It helps us feel like we belong and are connected to something bigger than ourselves. That's why I believe we're a part of the solution to this problem. Providing people with a place to belong, both spiritually and emotionally, and to feel a part of something bigger. Beloveds, when you wonder why we do this, why we come together every Sunday morning, remember that we're a powerful force for belonging. We can help fight against a culture that wants us to be more individualistic and less connected. We can help people feel loved and valued and held. May we continue to do this important work of belonging. May it be so.
Each week we gather to share and learn together. As part of our care as a community, we receive the joys and sorrows that you all share with us, both virtually and here in person, and we hold each other with gentle hands. This week, we hold in our thoughts Doug Hardy, who is at home recovering from a non-invasive procedure to shore up deteriorating back vertebrae. He's doing well and hopes to be back with us soon. Cards and calls are welcome. And in this sacred time, we invite you to say aloud the names of those you are holding today in the spaces where you are. You can type them in the chat if you're online, and if you're here with us this morning, we invite you to call out the names of those who are in your hearts today. We acknowledge and hold in our hearts all the prayers spoken and unspoken among us. We hold in our hearts all those who have yet to find a community of care in which to share their joys and sorrows. May they find peace. May they find love.
I invite you into the spirit of prayer with me. You might close your eyes or lower your gaze a bit if you need. You can take a deep breath in and out with me, taking a deep breath in and out. Let's take another deep breath in if you'd like with me. In and out. You can let your body rest in the pew or whatever space you occupy today. You might even wiggle around a little bit. Sometimes I need to do that to get comfortable. Sort of wiggle around or put your feet flat on the floor. Take a moment to notice the sounds around you, calling you to this present moment. How does hope feel to you today? Close or far away? If despair is keeping you company, if hope is hard to access, we pray. Spirit of life, God, send our love and blessings to those feeling depressed, angry, and mournful today. May they feel some relief from despair, a lightening of spirit. May they feel held in the arms of the beloved and of this community. We know things are hard for ourselves and for our world. We've been there time and time again. It is with this understanding that we're able to offer our love and care to you in this moment. If hope is close, if you feel contentment, we pray, Spirit of love, Goddess, send our love and blessings to those feeling joy, gratitude, and peace today. May their feelings be amplified. May they bring that love and joy to others, spreading it to those who need it most. Send them our love and good wishes. sending out those love and good wishes to the world. We celebrate with them. We have also felt joy and peace before, and we know it's a blessing. If perhaps you're of mixed feelings today, blessed by joy or calmness, but also feeling hints of despair or perhaps grief, we pray that your isolation, your grief is lessened, and that you're able to access joy and love so deep within you. Church, we hold these things together, a community that holds sadness and grief, love and joy, a community open to whatever you might be feeling today. We pray for all you hold today. May it be so. Amen. Let us take a moment of silence. We don't have a word for the opposite of loneliness, but if we did, I'd say that's how I feel at church. How I feel right now here with all of you, in love, impressed, humbled, and scared. And we don't have to lose that. We are in this together. We are in this together. Be blessed, beloveds. Go and be blessed. And our closing hymn today is number 360, Here We Have Gathered. You're invited to stand as you're willing and able.
I invite you to join me in our benediction. The words are not on your screen, but they should be in your order of service. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. Please be seated for the postlude. And I have one quick announcement, and that is that Gib is our standing committee rep if you want to talk with him at coffee hour. Thank you all for joining us this morning.